Hey friends, what's up? Welcome to my in-depth guide for Illari, a new DPS character added in Season 6 for Overwatch Invasion. Huh? Did I say DPS? I meant support, sorry. I'm sure you're gonna see a lot of guides on YouTube in the next few days. I do think there's some tips and tricks in here that nobody else will talk about, and I think I got a really good grasp on the hero. And before you ask me, why would I listen to a DPS player talking about a new support? She is actually a DPS character. And I'm not talking about when people talk about Baptiste and Ana and you know, like Zenyatta, like playing like a DPS in the support role. She truly is a DPS character in multiple ways. Throw everything you knew about support out the window and let's start from level 1, the basics, and we'll get into why this is actually a character designed for DPS players in the support role. Let's go. So Illari, left click and right click, her healing and her main damage are both hit scan abilities. What hit scan means, if you're new or if you need a refresher, it means as soon as you pull the trigger on your keyboard and you're on the enemy or your ally, it will instantly deal the damage / the healing, which makes her really unique compared to other support characters in this video game. Her left click is also unique in the fact that it has a 1.5 headshot multiplier. In the game, every other character other than Kiriko has a 2x multiplier to the head, which means it is less beneficial to hit headshots on Illari. That doesn't mean you should always aim for the body, but we'll get into that in a second. So the way the left click works is you left click and it will deal 75 damage to the body and 110 damage to the head. Okay, that's a 1.5 multiplier. You can either 2-tap headshot any 200 HP target, or you can also 3-tap body shot any 200 HP target. What you have to keep in mind, there's another mechanic to it though. If you see the little bar below my crosshair, it does require charge time, okay? You can keep on spamming the ability, but it's gonna do very little damage, and spamming it is not really beneficial. It's more valuable to shoot, wait until it's fully charged, shoot again. What that means in practice is you can either go for the 2-tap headshot or you do 3 body shots, which means in most situations, unless you're sure you can hit the headshots, it's actually very beneficial to go for body shots. Now, that doesn't make her easier in that sense, but the left click ability is also very long range for a support character. So for reference, Cassidy's left click has normal damage. Fall off starts at 25 meters and ends at 35 meters, which means he's mid-range. Illari can be applied on longer ranges than Cassidy, for example, because her fall off damage only really starts at 30 meters, which means up to 30 meters away, you will always deal full damage. So right here, you see the sign, 30 meters, I will still easily 2-tap headshot. And once you get to 30 meters, the fall off damage is gonna start and it's gonna go up to around 50 meters, where the full 50% fall off applies, right? So in almost any situation, unless it's a really long sniper map, Illari will almost always deal maximum or close to maximum damage on her left click. As long as you use other abilities, like melee, or even her healing, her left click healing, the meter for the damage will not recharge, okay? This does not apply to her shift and her E ability. So you can very easily cast other abilities that are not the left click and not the melee, and still get an instant, or you can still get the charge back on your left click very fast. Just keep in mind that as long as you heal, you're not getting the charge back, and as long as you melee, you don't get the charge back. Another combo that you can apply is you can melee cancel the left click. So you can shoot and left click right away. This applies to something like Tracer, where you can do 1 headshot, then 1 body shot, and melee right after for a kill. Like this. For 200 HP targets, you could do something like a headshot, then a fully charged body, and it will kill them against a 200 HP target, if you keep that in mind. But it's not as beneficial, because here, in this situation, you have to wait until the left click is fully charged again to apply the second body shot to get that combo off. But very useful against something like Tracer in your backline. Going to a right click, her main healing ability. This also works on a meter, and it kind of functions like Orisa left click. And it heals for an insane amount. It's the highest burst healing in the game, I'm pretty sure. It heals for 120 HP a second. The burst healing you can apply with your left click is insane. But again, there's a caveat. There's this healing meter. As you see, the healing is insane. If your healing meter runs to 0, you will have a reload animation where you can't apply any healing during it. And unlike the left click that doesn't recharge when I use other abilities, the right click will always recharge, right? So I can use other abilities, I can throw stuff out, and I will have my right click healing back. So you can tap it, right? Wait a bit, shoot a left click out, use other abilities, dash around, and then go back to healing. This is not a thing you can keep on spamming, like Moira heals, right? This healing runs out very fast and you really want to use it actively in situations to keep a hero up. And when you heal your tank, right, when they're under pressure, when you have this on, they will not die. At least for the 3-second duration that this charge has. Unlike the right click, it doesn't have the highest range in the game, so it's very deceiving. You see here, it looks like I'm supposed to hit him. 15 meters is the maximum range of the healing you can apply, or 15 meters is the maximum radius of the healing you can apply with your main left click. But it is an insanely good ability, and it is insanely good to use with the rest of the kit. Which brings me to our next ability, which is called Outburst. Outburst is an 8-meter radius jump ability, okay? It boops everyone in that radius away from you, the enemy, not your teammates. It does 10 damage, so it's a slight amount of damage. It does not heal you. You can use it to get away, get into the fights, and stay moving while, you know, using your healing ability and staying outside of the line of sight of the enemy. If you do nothing and just press shift, it's gonna be a tiny jump to the top. If you look at the floor while I do this, you see it's pretty big. It's a pretty big boop. It's gonna be very useful on maps like Ilios, like a Lucio boop. But that's not where the main strength comes from. You can hold spacebar while shifting to gain way more height. So if I press shift and hold spacebar, you can get up to pretty significant heights with it. What I can do is I can do this directional into any direction. So I can walk left, press left, and I'm gonna jump to the left. Right there, I did not hold spacebar. And there is a difference between holding spacebar in these jumps and not. So if I just walk forward and press shift, okay, I'm gonna mostly have forward momentum. So it's a pretty fast jump forward. I can hold forward in the same situation and then hold spacebar after a jump, and I will have a jump forward that is a bigger arc. This is not always the better jump to use. If you want to get behind cover fast or you want to not get hit, it's usually better to jump and just go forward and not press space at all, because you're going to be faster. Basically, for heights, you hold spacebar, and if you don't want to get heights, you just press the directory you want in. And we use this as a movement tool to go in and out, and we can also use it as a defensive tool. Don't use it for the 10 damage. It's a great ability to get around on the map, and it has a really high skill ceiling. Next ability is the healing pylon, and this is probably her best ability, and this is what is going to win you games, okay? So the healing pylon deploys, and it will heal your allies as long as it's up, and this will last forever until you break it or the enemy breaks it. It will heal in a 15-meter radius, will heal for 40, and it's every 0.8 seconds, around 52 HP a second. If you fight in this pylon and the enemy doesn't kill it, it's game over. It will target the person with the lowest HP on your team. The cool part about this is you can put it anywhere.
Healing pylon out.
Oh my god.
So you put it behind chokes and you put it in spots where the enemy can't destroy it. You can always break it yourself manually and you will have it back up immediately. So you can break it with your interact and then immediately place it. Now you can't spam this. It has an 8-second cooldown when it's first deployed, but you'll see it's gonna run to 0, and now I can just destroy it and replace it immediately. Now, there's a caveat to this. If it takes any damage, if I break it, it will have a 15-second cooldown. So if I place it right here, and it will get hit by the bot, right? I can break it now manually, but it's gonna have that, 12-second, it's gonna have a 12-second cooldown. It's all about map design, right? You can be as creative as you want. You can put it on a moving platform. And the number one priority for you as an Illari is to put it in the line of sight of your allies. So if I put it too high here, you will notice that sometimes it doesn't heal. I can't see. This is the line of sight you have to keep in mind, right? It's not the bottom of the pylon where it is. It's that glowing ball. Right here, this bot barely is in line of sight, but this spot is not, right? So it's not getting healed. And this brings me back to why Illari is just basically a DPS in the support role. Most of the healing is going to be done by your healing pylon. It's your main healing tool, and you're only going to really spend time actively healing with your right click during your burst healing windows when your tank is getting really low, when you have to keep someone up in a grav. That's going to last a maximum of 3 seconds, right? That's how long the right click healing lasts. And after that, you're back to DPSing. If you're still doubting my hypotheses, if you see the ult, you will know what's up. It is just a DPS ult. So this ability is called Captive Sun. Captive Sun is an 8-meter radius explosion. It can be shot anywhere from anywhere, and it doesn't have to hit the enemy directly. All it has to do is hit the floor, and in an 8-meter radius, every person will receive 50 impact damage, and there's going to be a status effect applied to the enemies. It's going to slow them down for 7 seconds. And during those 7 seconds, there's also a negative status effect on them. And that negative debuff is going to trigger a secondary big explosion for every 120 damage during the 7-second debuff window. For the 4-second cast time of the ult, you also are allowed to fly freely. You can basically use your spacebar to fly up. You can fly into any direction, and this is going to stay active for the 4 seconds of your cast time, right? So it doesn't matter if you cast your ult right away, if you shoot your one big shot right away, or if you shoot it after 4 seconds. You can spend the time flying. So what I can do is I ult, and I can basically fly around like a Mercy with a Guardian Angel or an ultimate, and then I shoot it, right? It applies the negative effect, and like the first robot didn't even live until the explosion happened. The corpse will still explode, so you can kill one person. It's gonna spread the splash to other enemies. It's about aiming the left click, it's about aiming the right click, and again, you will not use a lot of your time healing. You will not have the time to heal a lot, right? You can always put it in there, but you mostly want to focus on your pylon placement, and then your pylon is going to do your job. You're going to kill them, while your pylon is going to heal your team. So, we established how the basics of Illari work. Let's talk about movement and positioning. And the thing you really have to keep in mind before starting any fight is using the healing pylon. You really have to stop thinking of it as like an ability and more of like a structure you build before the fight starts, like a Torp turret or like Symmetra turrets. And it's not really a normal ability with cooldowns. There's basically no benefit to using pylon for after the fight starts, if you think about it. It is healing over time, and as soon as you cast it, the cooldown starts lowering and you can recast it, right? The point we have to think about is once the enemy hits it, the cooldown will be back to full, right? So we really want to avoid the enemy hitting the pylon, and if they hit it, it needs to be for a benefit of yourself, right? Like if we put it behind a wall and the enemy has to push in to force it down, then your team can just get a kill for it, right? So we really want to think about pylon positioning and use the pylon as soon as possible. This really depends on what map type and what comp you're playing. On escort maps, for example, you can place it on the card. The positioning itself is kind of tricky because the pylon again sticks out, so you want to get the angle correct. Here in this example, you can see I missed the angle a tiny bit, like I put it on this rock as an example, and because I put it on the wrong angle, you can see it stick out very clearly, and it's going to be very easy for the enemy to hit it. So this is really a thing that is actually not that easy to do. Like over time you'll learn different positionings. I'm sure different people will come up with like multiple million different positionings for this thing. It's like basically infinite skill ceiling. So for capturing the first point on an escort map like King's Row, if you're on attack, you want to place it forward, but you still want to put it in cover to where it's still kind of hard for the enemy to hit you. So yeah, in summary again, there's a million possibilities and anything can work as long as the pylon can't be shot down by the enemy, or if the enemy has to push in aggressively to take it down, which gives you value. This also means Illari is naturally better at defending than attacking, just like Torbjorn and Symmetra. That does not necessarily mean that she's bad to play on attack or you can't play on attack. Just keep in mind that if you already have the space to put the pylon down, she's gonna be better, right? Or if you hold space, like for example, if you already captured a King of the Hill, it's gonna be better because you can already start the fight off very comfortably with like your entire team knowing the positioning of the pylon. After you set up the pylon, you can start the fight by playing around your pylon and poke in and out of cover to deal damage, right? So you shoulder peek. Ideally your team should be all around somewhere near the pylon, so it can heal everyone on your team. That also means that your team is going to be in range for you to use your right click to burst heal. You want to save your shift abilities for maneuvers to escape the enemy, if the enemy tries to rush you or dive you down. Don't get me wrong, you can use it offensively to secure a kill, like if the enemy team is retreating and you know you can safely push up, you can very easily use it forward to take high ground or jump forward a few meters. Remember that even if you are in a forced 1v1 fight against the DPS, they will first have to destroy your pylon and then kill you. The pylon kind of functions like an immortality field in that sense, where, you know, Bab can just put it down and the enemy has to burst it down first. Now, I'm not saying that the pylon will keep you alive at all times, right? Immortality, literally, you are immortal until they kill it. But in most 1v1s I had, even against pro players, I played against ML7, I played against all the streamers, and I'm sure you'll see this in ladder play on high rank too. Most times when you fight a DPS 1v1 and you have the pylon up in your range, they will lose the 1v1 if you're skillful enough, unless they like find a way to burst it down before they engage you, unless they have like, you know, a mercy pocket, in which case it's not a 1v1 anymore. Also make sure to juggle your pylon. Like, for example, if your team moves in deeper, if you created some space and you're attacking like more aggressively now, press your interact button, break your pylon, and you can instantly redeploy it in another spot for the next fight you take, or move it backwards if you have to fall back, right? If you realize, oh, the enemy team is about to push that corner and they're about to see my pylon and I will not have any way to stop them from killing it, you can break it just before, and then you have the benefit of having it up instantly again instead of waiting for 12 seconds if you let the enemy team break it. And as I mentioned earlier, try to manage your healing meter properly to not get overcharged too much. Overcharging is usually a bad thing. It can happen, it will happen, but let your healing pylon do your main job as healing, and your secondary healer do most of the consistent healing, and you use your laser to keep your allies up in critical situations. It's a burst heal and it's not a long sustained heal. Your shift can get you away from the enemy pretty easily, and on a lot of maps you can use it to go up to high ground. You should really like experiment with it. For example, Dorado first point, you can jump on the car on attack and get to that right side high ground. Most high grounds, if they're not super high, you can get up to by just using shift and space, the way I showed you just now earlier in the video. If you're not constantly using either left click or right click on Illari, you are actually playing the character wrong. We already established you use the pylon before the fight starts. You don't have to worry about it too much unless you want to reposition the pylon. And otherwise, you really want to, you know, save your shift and then just use left click or right click. The ultimate is a really big AoE, and it can be comboed really well with multiple abilities in the game. We did it a lot with Graviton Surge. That's almost always a team wipe. They all just explode. On its own though, it can provide you not only with a way to kill the entire enemy team, but also a way to escape, because you can fly, right? So when you cast it, you have 4 seconds to fly around and shoot the big splash AoE. If the timer runs out, the ult will automatically shoot the shot right at the end of the cast, like you see here in this video. But ideally, you really want to shoot it as fast as possible after you do the initial ult cast, since you can still fly around and use your normal primary fire after, right? And you really want to make use of that, because you need to trigger the explosions after you debuff them. That is what's going to net you the kills. It's a really big AoE. It's actually really hard to miss. Honestly, don't try to go for like a Pharah in the air. I would recommend put it on the ground, hit multiple targets at once. And again, it's a really big AoE. It's 8-meter radius. Also, make sure to keep moving during your ult. Again, if you hold spacebar, you fly up. If you've never played Mercy, that's how it works. Otherwise, keep on moving. You're not invincible. Yeah, almost every support ult in the game makes you heal yourself or your team, right? But like Illari's ult is actually a DPS ult. It does not give you any more survivability, so you really want to keep on moving, and keep in mind that there's also a few abilities in the game that can very easily negate your ultimate. D.Va, if she eats your shot, you have 1 shot, it's gone. You really need to make sure that if you play against a D.Va, to force out the D.Va matrix, because the ult, again, you can only cast for 4 seconds, and if D.Va matrix is fully charged, she has 8 seconds of matrix. So all she has to do is eat you and look at you with her matrix, and you're not going to be able to get ult off. Also can be deflected by Genji. I have not seen that yet. That would be a cool highlight. Otherwise, team compositions. If you are playing Illari as the main healing output of the team, you will have a tough time unless you play with a very specific composition around her and everyone stays together. She's gonna have troubles keeping your tank up if they're far away from you, and that creates some problems with certain comps in the video, in Overwatch 2. I would think of Illari like a flex support that adds a lot of damage and a lot of sustain to your team, but you will give up key utility like Ana's anti-nade or Kiriko's Suzu cleanse. Illari works best in poke comps that have a tank that can play back with you, like Sigma, on long range maps, right? Remember, the left click is very far range. She can play around a Rhine shield, but if you pair her up with a tank that goes in and dives really aggressively, like a Monkey or like a Doomfist, it will be really hard to keep them up, right? Because when the Monkey jumps, you're gonna be outside of his effective range, and then you have to make the choice to like shift in and try to heal them, and then you die because you don't have a shift out anymore, right? And then you're outside of your pilot's radius. So it's really like more like a hero that works really good with snowball comps and comps that stay together, like a death ball comp. Something like Orisa, Reinhardt, something like a Ramatra. Or again, a poke comp like Sigma, Widowmaker, and Illari on something like Circuit Royale, for example. I'm sure the meta will shift a lot in the first 2-3 weeks, it always happens, but so far what I found great to pair Illari up with for other supports is supports that can output a lot of healing over time that also have utility, like Yuriko or Ana. I don't want to make this guide too long, so if you have any questions about a playstyle, just ask in the comments. You can also come check me out live at twitch.tv/metro. We're gonna do a ton of Illari this season. I'm a DPS player. This is the first time I ever really enjoyed playing a support because she's actually just a DPS with added benefit like self-regen, right? Like she has the support passive. You can play like a DPS that can heal himself while healing the team, while not even having to heal yourself. Like your Pylon is doing your healing job, and you know, shoot a laser sometimes, and the rest of the time you actually just go in and you aim at them and you shoot them. We are gonna go really hard on YouTube again as well, so make sure to stick around for more Illari gameplay guides. Otherwise, we're definitely gonna bring back the Is It My Team or Do I Suck series, and I'm really excited for Season 6. Otherwise, until next time, see you friends, bye bye.